Great, thank you. It'll all be over soon. Only 45 minutes to go. On page 157, there's a performance measure to a ATB financial return on average risk-weighted assets. To what extent does ATB have higher tolerances for some risks than others?
Give me a second to find that
Sure.
in my materials. And where is ATB person? So she's talking about this return on average risk-weighted assets.
Just while you're taking a look for that, there does seem to be some disparity between the risk tolerance that ATB is empowered to undertake and that of credit unions. I have heard from credit unions specifically in rural areas that they feel they're at a competitive disadvantage with ATB because ATB's risk tolerance is quite a bit higher. And as I'm sure you share my sentiment about credit unions, they're very important, they're really integral, especially to small communities, large communities as well. And so understanding what the ATB risk tolerance is and comparing and contrasting that to credit unions, I think is really important to understand the overall health. Like, I understand ATB represents a revenue stream for the government, but it has to be at least a fair playing field along with the credit unions.
So, yes, and in addition, ATB is in many, many communities across Alberta that don't have credit unions. They have hundreds and hundreds of storefronts across Alberta. The number of credit unions relative to ATB is very small. So we, of course, have capitalized ATB with monies in a previous budget to help cushion the downturn and ensure that businesses could continue to borrow capital at good rates. We are the net operating result for ATB.
So we're expecting that their risk is going to pay off. They're going to make more money.
Yeah. We're anticipating that ATB's risk tolerance will relate to increased revenues for ATB, but I'm confident in the direction and the people who are at ATB in terms of their growth and ability to address the capital needs of businesses and individuals in Alberta.
I'm just going to jump in here. Does ATB have a higher risk tolerance in certain areas like green energy, economic diversification, Indigenous or rural initiatives? And to what extent do the ATB investments in those areas align with the provincial strategy, the strategic priorities, and providing returns for the government?
Mm-hmm. Of course, with ATB being backed by the government and credit unions being member-owned, the risk tolerance for those different entities are different. We want to make sure that credit unions are there for the long term and their members, and so ATB would not do anything to destabilize that. That's why we increased that's why for credit unions, we increased the array of services that they could provide their members, like insurance, should they choose, so that they can better compete with ATB and banks. And we also guarantee the credit unions all of their deposits, so it's a level playing field in that respect.
I'm going to move on to page 157 concerning the stability of insurance companies. And I'm wondering, what impacts have you noticed on Alberta's insurance sector as a result of legalizing and insuring Uber and other ride-sharing or taxi-like services?
Is that a key strategy or a performance measure?
There's a performance measure, and there's also a key strategy. So the performance measure is 2C, and the key strategy is 2.1.
2C, oh, there it is. Ensure insurers remain solvent and have funds to pay claims. We have a superintendent who monitors all of this work with regard to and keeps an eye on.
Do you have any information regarding Uber and other ride-sharing services specifically?
The industry has not let us know that there's any the insurance industry, the credit union insurance industry has not let us know that there's been any specific impact with regard to those entities.
And the insurance industry overall, have they been receptive or resistant to offering those kinds of products?
They're working closely with transportation, of course, and that minister. But I think there's an interest in all of that, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving to page 160, there's a table at the top of the page. This is regarding engagements on alberta.ca. How does measuring alberta.ca sessions per capita tell you who's accessing the information online, what information they're accessing, or why they're going there?
Okay, I'm just going to confer. The analytics Google provides tells us what people, who they are, not identifies them, but the demographics around those people and why they're going to our sites. We track people so that we can better reform and revise our presentations to Albertans.
So in the overall context of social media as a whole, I'm trying to understand, because I know for most people I know mobile devices are the way that we gather our information, and things like Twitter and Facebook are certainly primary sources, whereas a website, traffic's usually more driven there if you need to interact in some way, if you need to fill out a form or request information or that sort of thing. So I'm just trying to get a sense of why the alberta.ca website is being specifically highlighted in your business plan, rather than having a context of the overall impact that the Alberta government and your public engagement strategy has through social media as a whole.
2 minutes.
Okay, thanks.
So websites are a stable foundation for understanding what how Albertans are engaging with the province, but we certainly engage and try and understand what Albertans are doing with social media, whether it's on Snapchat or Facebook or other things. The communications and public engagement has the ability to do research and continue to be up on what Albertans are using and why and how they're engaging with us.
Thank you. I'm going to jump to page 157. Outcome 2 concerns policy and regulatory oversight for liquor, gaming, cannabis, financial securities, insurance, and pension sectors. And we're hearing from community members that AGLC is gaining a reputation for not communicating or interacting with community organizations in culturally competent ways. Where in the business plan do you see a commitment from the government to address the lack of cultural competence at AGLC and to be able to support inclusion?
Well, I as a minister have been engaged directly with community groups in the Calgary area with regard to AGLC and charitable gaming. So I've met directly and involved the CEO and president of AGLC to help reform, help understand what the issues are, and then address them through revised policies.
But there's no line item in the budget to address that particular issue?
No, what there is AGLC's commitment to be a part of constantly improving their offerings to Albertans and engagement with Albertans, whether they be around cultural issues or cannabis issues or other things.
How is the Treasury Board and Finance helping nonprofit organizations better access and use AGLC funds for charitable programming?
How is TBF doing that? Through the good work of AGLC, They are the lead department in all of that. We, of course, want to continue to ensure Albertans that the charitable gaming model supports community organizations. Sorry.
Thank you, Minister. We'll now